All right, let's jump straight into it. Today, we're taking a look at instant karma, specifically the escalating consequences of bad driving and parking. You know the feeling, right? You see someone ditch their car in literally the absolute worst spot imaginable, and you just think, oh, they're definitely going to pay for that later. Well, in today's explainer, we're going to break down exactly what happens when terrible driving choices meet immediate, unyielding consequences. It's a wild ride from temporary convenience to absolute disaster. So what actually happens when bad parking goes terribly wrong? Honestly, we usually just picture a little slip of paper tucked under the windshield wiper, right? A parking ticket. But the reality? Oh, it is often so much worse. The incidents we're looking at today are pretty intense cautionary tales. They highlight this massive gap, sometimes hilarious, sometimes genuinely terrifying, between a driver just trying to save a few seconds and the absolute chaos that follows. It's honestly a fascinating look at human behavior on the road.
Okay, let's dive into this. Phase 1, the true cost of parking.
This comparison right here completely nails the core delusion of a bad parker. We always tell ourselves, hey, I'm just saving 5 minutes of walking, what's the big deal? But the harsh reality? It's paying a massive impound fee just to retrieve your car. We've seen so many instances where drivers come back to the spot and their car is just gone, whisked away to an impound lot. And here's the kicker. Arguing with the cops or refusing to pay? Yeah, that just makes it infinitely worse. Getting a car out of impound is going to cost you a ton of cash and honestly a massive hit to your pride. But what's truly mind-blowing is the sheer absurdity of where people decide to leave their vehicles. We're not talking about letting the meter expire for 10 minutes. We're talking about bizarre no-go zones, like parking entirely inside a public park, or straddling 2 parking spots just because you think your flashy sports car somehow deserves VIP treatment. Newsflash, it doesn't. Or, and I still can't believe this one, driving right onto a sandy beach and getting completely stuck. People just completely ignore what's right in front of them, and boom, their car gets seized because they treated a public beach like their own personal driveway. Moving right along to Phase 2, blocking transit and emergencies. This is where the stakes get a whole lot higher. Just picture this scenario. Someone casually parks right next to a fire hydrant, completely ignoring the bright red warning paint. Suddenly, an actual emergency hits. The result? Total disaster. In one of the most jaw-dropping moments from the source footage, a driver parked illegally next to a hydrant, and during the scramble of an actual fire emergency, that hydrant was completely ripped from its place. It literally tore the plumbing right out of the city's streets. Talk about learning a lesson the hard way. And if that doesn't get your heart racing, how about a ticking clock on the train tracks? Seriously. There is probably no scenario more terrifying or highly regretful than getting your car stuck too close to a railway line. The source details this incredibly agonizing situation where a driver is desperately scrambling to figure out what to do before a fast-approaching train arrives. You just know that whoever parked there is instantly regretting literally every single life choice that led them to that spot, as the clock just ticks down. Which brings us to Phase 3, when civilians take revenge. And oh boy, this is where things get truly wild. Let me introduce you to this concept of creative punishment. This is when everyday citizens decide to take road etiquette into their own hands, penalizing reckless drivers in, well, highly unconventional ways. Take this unbelievable example we found. A Tesla was left parked right smack in the middle of a dedicated bike lane. Now, the cyclist didn't just huff and puff and bike around it. Nope. They actually took the time to tightly wrap the entire car in plastic wrap. It's hilarious. It's totally harmless to the paint. But man, what an incredibly frustrating lesson for a driver who thought the rules just didn't apply to them. Just look at the direct cause and effect here. Say you park directly in front of someone else's car, completely boxing them in. Well, you might just find your vehicle being dragged away by a rope. People just taking matters into their own hands to get out. Or if you manage to really infuriate an entire neighborhood with your driving, a frustrated neighbor might literally throw a baseball bat out their window right at your car as a sort of parting gift. I mean, it's shocking for sure, but it perfectly illustrates that angering the locals can literally result in flying sporting goods. All right, brace yourselves for Phase 4, complete vehicle destruction. Those minor inconveniences we talked about, they are about to transform into catastrophic disasters. 6. That is the number of wheels on a massive commercial transport truck that you should absolutely never, ever try to block. Our source data shows this unbelievable standoff where a standard passenger car actually tried to block one of these six-wheel behemoths from accessing an entrance. Let's just say you really do not want to play check-in with a truck driver. The sheer devastation that happens when a tiny car refuses to move for a massive truck is staggering. The car was totally pulverized, just turned into a block of scrap metal. There's this really powerful sentiment from the source that perfectly anchors all this chaos. Paying a fine is better than flipping the car. Just imagine this. A car is selfishly blocking a dedicated bus lane, causing these massive transit delays for everyone. Eventually, citizens get so fed up, they physically intervene and try to push the car out of the way. But the whole thing escalates so rapidly and with so much force that the car completely flips over. So yeah, the punishment for blocking a bus lane just upgraded from a simple fine to a totally upside-down car on the asphalt. And that leads us to these completely unbelievable end states. Honestly, it's almost hard to wrap your head around the physics here. We see cars turned into literal piles of scrap metal. We see a car that somehow, I really don't know how, managed to park completely vertically. The irony there is that even the most experienced stunt driver couldn't park a car vertically if they tried, yet somehow reckless driving accomplishes it flawlessly. And finally, a car crashed straight through a solid brick wall. As the source points out, extracting a car that is deeply wedged into a brick wall is no easy feat. These aren't even really accidents anymore. They're like monuments to terrible decision-making. Which brings us to our final takeaway, Phase 5, the ultimate driving lesson. Look at the stark contrast. We have a driver accepting a routine police ticket versus a driver destroying their own car in a blind rage. Get this. The ultimate irony we found in the source material involves a driver who just received a simple routine ticket. Nothing crazy. The officer issued the fine, handed it over, and that was it. But the driver's reaction? They went into an absolute blind rage and decided to violently smash their own vehicle. They literally destroyed their own property out of sheer anger. It absolutely proves that sometimes your own bad reaction to a minor penalty becomes the harshest punishment of all. That was one incredibly expensive lesson to learn. So, I'll leave you with this. Is flipping a car taking it too far, or is that just the harsh reality of the road? As you think about the boundaries of instant karma, the wild unpredictability of human behavior, and the absolute chaos that ensues when bad drivers finally face the music, ask yourself where you draw the line. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it leaves you wanting to explore more about the fascinating psychology of people behind the wheel. Stay safe out there, and please, for everyone's sake, just park within the lines.